we cannot do the hi
Yeah, go ahead, go
everyone.
ahead,
We're
go ahead.
live. we're going we're live already suddenly. We're happily
Okay,
chatting
great.
behind screen. Right. I'm supposed to invite the guest up, but the guest is already up, right? So basically, let me introduce you guys. Tian Teck. Say hi to everyone, Tian Teck.
Hello, everybody. It's so great to be here live on Facebook. Yeah, and today I have so many things to share with everyone, right?
I think
About
today we have
about the secrets behind
secrets.
Steve Jobs keynote, right? Yeah.
So, okay, basically, what I'm gonna do is before we start, right, while waiting for other people, like what usually that people is gonna hop on right now, people are getting to hop on currently. Just want you guys to check out, like, see where are you guys from, and then give us a like. Did you see that thumb that is moving right in front of it? Right, really encourage you guys to like give us a like. And I'm hopping on because currently I won't be able to see. Somehow or other, you need to give access to StreamYard so that I can actually see comments on this talk show. You see, so yeah, right. Hang on. Okay, let's start. Okay, I'm actually very excited to this topic. Basically, behind the Steve Jobs keynote. The reason why is because I have not watched his keynote for quite some time. Sometimes before I became, in charge in the company, right? That I will be able to see what happens in his presentation. So after so many years, when I rewatched the keynote, there's so much learning behind this keynote speaking, and I can say to this date, not many CEOs have done it fairly similar to where Steve Jobs is doing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think Steve Jobs is one of the very unique person who is make presentation come alive. A lot of CEOs, there are actually also some really good CEO that can really good presentation. But there are a lot of also a very famous CEO. When you see them present, you see um, that they do not have very powerful message and they do not have very powerful slides. But
Mm,
if you do keep track of Steve Jobs' keynote presentation, he doesn't right.
mm.
Uh,
And I think when I was watching this and I was over the course of like we are in business, right? I just realized that he made it so powerful. The way that it's because so how iPhone is being so powerful is because that it's not really because during the launch that the hype happens. I believe that a launch of an iPhone brand, the hype happens like say 6 months before the launch happens, I would assume. Like 6 months that time they are the business try to build up the launch already. So that's where the things is happening. I got commotion
if I
behind.
can remember at that time, iPhone was launched in many years back, right? 2007, right? 2007. That where it
Yeah,
was launched. And before even iPhone, I think the world has been talking about Apple is going to launch a phone. Apple is not a phone company, right? Apple was never a phone company. It was a computer
correct.
company, right? It's a
Yeah.
computer company. And then after that, they moved into this music player, which is called iPod, right?
Yeah.
iPod. And it was
Yeah.
this small device, the music device that actually changed the way people listen to music, right? Change the
Yes.
way people listen. Apple is not the first company who actually come up with music player, right?
Mm.
But when it introduced the iPod, it hit the market because the way they talk about music is very much different from other vendors, right? Other brands, other company try to sell you a device, right? Try
Yeah.
to sell you a device and tell you that this device has 4 gigabytes, right?
Mm.
And this device has 8 gigabytes and things like that. But what Apple try to sell you is that you can bring your music along with you in your pocket.
Correct.
And the message is so different. The message relates to the individual. Everybody who listens to music understands what is music. And if you can carry your home 1,000 songs in your pocket, that's what it says, the ad, right? If you can carry 1,000 songs in your pocket, isn't that really powerful?
They focus a lot on the experience that they want to bring. So that's behind the brand, where they focus only on the experience. I remember you told me that you were once working in Apple, right? So you want to share what is the in and out that breathe, in Apple. I remember you mentioned a little bit about, if let's say there's a features that is not going to give great convenience, no, they're not. They're definitely off their list, right?
I guess definitely that is the part of Apple's DNA in terms of introducing features in the product. A lot of people complain that you compare iPhone and the Android phone in Samsung and things like that, right? The Android version of the phone. Actually, there are a lot of more features in the Android phone as compared to Apple, right? And slowly by little, Apple start introducing some really interesting features in the phone, and people are saying that, hey, this thing is already there 2 years ago, right? In the Android phone, right? And why are Apple fans so excited now? Of course, we all complain that why is this only happening now and not like, a year ago or a year and a half ago? That is one thing that Apple always do, as I understand, is that, if they cannot make that function work really well, in their product, the feature is off, right? It will not introduce a feature that doesn't work very well. For example, if the animation doesn't move from left to right very smoothly, as what Apple intended the user to experience it, if the animation move from left to right is in a jerky form, right? Although it works, but that feature is not going to be there. It's going to be off, right? So Apple put all that user experience at a very high standard. Yeah. And that is why
Like the
you
touch,
find that,
right? The touch button. I mean, until now, I find that their phones are on a very high level sensitivity when they created the touchpad. And not many brands and not many companies can do that. Like many people will say, never mind, like you test the market first, right? You come up with like the version one first. I mean, that's really much a lot of time. What happens in our company as well, like launch it first, and see what happens. But I think what Apple does in the approach is, I really want to make sure your experience is the utmost important to me. Like they capture on that user experience really highly, because they put that as their DNA into it. And they would think that definitely this is, if it is not working, might as well we don't launch, right? That's the stubbornness, I would say it's a stubbornnness in their pipelines, right? To really put out this brand to other people. Yeah.
yeah, I would say it is. It's kind of, I guess the stubbornness start from Steve himself, right? Right. And kind of a lot of things have to go through him, the CEO. Although he's CEO, he still actually look at the product, right? And he kind of decide on whether this thing will go in or not go in, kind of thing. I mean, if he himself using it and find that, well, I don't feel good, then most likely I guess the product will not get into the feature will not get into the product, right? Although a lot of us practice this thing that you don't make the product you don't make the product until it's perfect before you launch, right?
Yeah.
You have to have version 1, then you go to version 2, and then you version 3, and a lot of company does that. But I guess when Apple does that, the version 1 have to be a good version 1, right? Although the product is not complete meaning that, okay, certain feature did not work, but it did not get into it. The feature is omitted. But whatever feature is in there is still functioning very well.
Yeah.
And although that's version 1. And of course, the next year you expect a new phone, maybe the feature that not get into the version 1 already been researched thoroughly, and the technology is already there. okay, and it can support that feature, right? And it works very well with the user experience, okay? And so, okay, the next year, that feature is included into the next product. And I guess it so on, so on.
Yeah, I think this
And
this comes up with something very uniquely, because I think Steve's wanted it to be heavily presented during his launching. So in his keynote, right, he's going to, if he's definitely going to explain that feature, he also need to save his face in a way that, he needs to make sure that the features that is being told about is wow, right? I think that's why today we want to look into behind these keynotes. What is actually so critical in the keynote that, yeah, what is so critical in that keynotes, right? And that wow that is we were looking for in the keynote. And every time when there is a keynote, right, everybody was like, I'm so looking forward for the keynote. I'm so looking forward with all the keynotes of like Steve Jobs, and I just wonder how he's going to do it. And so many gurus were sitting like behind this keynote trying to decipher, right, how did he make this entire presentation so when I was listening to the 2007 keynotes, right, to be very frank, I feel very excited. I do not know why. Even though it was an old model, it has never happened before. So later on, those people who wanted the link, right, just give us a thumbs up and like. Okay, for those users that are currently engaged online, just have to share it out, because later I'm going to share out the link of 2007 links, and later Tian Teck is going to share to you like one keynote different, some of the keynotes that Steve ever had done, right, during that what do you call that, before he passed away. So you actually track through all these keynotes, right? I assume that you have done a lot of research behind the keynotes. Actually, what are the things? I actually went through a few keynotes of him, and I realized that he have a few powerful things there. So do you want to roughly go through what sort of things that he did that is so amazing, and then maybe guide us? My intention, right, is to really help entrepreneurs, right, to take in a mindset, a skill set, and the tools from our life today, really to help them with how can every single 30 minutes that we are spending here, right, help you boost up your business. I think presentation is definitely one very important one, especially pitching to something, right, some ideas, and for funds, etc. So I heard that you brought us a framework as well.
I did, because I was thinking, what is it that Steve Jobs did very well, in all his keynote. I'm actually a fan of his presentation. I follow his keynote quite often. In fact, I guess almost all his keynotes, I actually did watch it. And since, because now everything is uploaded on YouTube, you can never miss the keynote, right? Right. Long time ago, when the internet is actually not there yet, you actually need to fly all the way to San Francisco, right, to Cupertino, where he always held his keynote, right? And so you got to go on, buy a ticket, go to the stage, and the stage is limited. It's always limited, and it's packed and full, right? But the interesting thing about the internet is that now all the keynotes, now all Apple's keynotes are actually streamed live on the internet. So anyone in the world can actually watch it the same time as the keynote is being held, things like that. And definitely,
I realized one thing before you start the framework, right? I just realized one thing. Don't you think that they start the product launch by hyping this keynote? And how many of them are actually buying tickets to go in? Right? I think many of them really want to see him in person and wanted to go there and sit there to experience that. No, even behind a YouTube, behind a screen, when I was reading, I was watching the keynote, right? I feel super excited about the product. Not actually about the product, it's about how he pays this thing up, And okay, on my layman terms, not on presentation how it is, but on my really, really layman terms, right? I find that he does something that not many people do. I realize it's the pausing. He paused really, really a lot of times, which not many speaker, right, can hold on to it. Don't you think so?
I think that that is a very I think that is a technique, right? A technique in presentations that is high impact, right? High impact. So you got to pace yourself. You got to know when to stop speaking, right? When to stop speaking. Let the audience think about the things that you have spoken, in the last 2 minutes, right? Let the audience kind of absorb the things first before you start to talk again, right? And I guess the pause is very powerful, right? The pause, and then people will anticipate, okay, what are you going to say next? What are you going to say next, kind of thing, right? And
sometimes,
in order
right?
to do that pause, you got to learn
Yes.
and
Just
practice.
take example, right? Right now, all of us, right, like pause like 10 seconds. I myself will feel the awkwardness. See, it's like that five. So I time his pause. I actually go through and time his pause. It was like a 5 second kind of pause, like long pauses. And you will see him walking from one end of the stage, right? I think to the other end
Yeah,
of the stage.
correct.
And I was like, you were really hanging all the audience, right in front of it and doing nothing. But it sort of gave me that build up of emotions. Like, so what's next? That kind of
Yeah.
emotions. Yeah.
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 And I guess during the keynote, the audience actually has a lot of emotion because everybody is expecting something from it, right? Even before the actual event, like you say earlier on, the build up of the hype is not just a week before. It's like months ahead, months ahead that there will be rumors that Apple is going to launch this new product and that and things like that, right? And suddenly when Steve Jobs appeared on stage and everyone expect that, okay, what are you going to announce? But he did not straight away announce the product, right? If you take a look
Yeah.
at the keynote, right? He keep
Yes.
people in suspense because he go in, he talk about the revolutionary kind of products that is in this world, right? And he talk about what are people using today and things like what are other companies' products looks like.
Yeah.
And it talked a little bit about the statistics and the sales figures of the company.
Yeah, I think that's what he did to do the final announcement, you see. So it was like hype and hype. It's like watching a movie. When you're watching his keynote, it's like watching a movie from like slowly mild, become excited. I'm very curious what it is at the final point, and I really want to know. I want to get this product. I think that's the key of how they make it super, super successful in terms of building something there, like building the thing up to it. Yeah. So that's very, very important. Yeah. Why not share your framework? I'm excited to know what's the framework that you want to let
Okay, so
people take
that's what I'm
away.
going to do, right? I'm going to make you wait for the framework. Yeah, but before that, I'm going to just maybe show you a couple of pictures, right? And so these are some of the screenshots that took out from the Steve Jobs keynote presentation, right? Keynote presentation. This
Yeah.
is the one where the iPhone is launching, 2007. That's where he came out on stage. Before this, he talked about many things about the industry, about generally what people use in the phone. He talked about the smartphone versus the feature phone and things like that, right?
Yep.
And suddenly then he bring people into this journey about thinking of music. And he says that, well, Apple actually has actually launched music, changed the way people listen to music with the iPod, right? And then after
Yes.
that, he talked about today what we do. We all wanted to be connected, right? And the internet is the place that we go and search for information and things like that. And we always need to stay and talk to people, communicate, which is the phone, right? And then he moved into today. We are going to introduce, 3 products, right? Or three things in a product kind of thing, which is the phone, right? It's not 3
Correct.
products, but one product have 3 benefits kind of thing.
And I remember
The
that
way
part.
he say it,
Yeah, I
he say
remember
it
the
very
part.
well, right?
Correct. You know how he say it, and he repeated twice. He repeated twice, and he said it's a product that has an iPod, a phone, and an internet in one. And he repeated again, like a product that has an iPod, a phone, and an internet in one. That was very rare. I mean, he seldom do that, but this is that one point of time that he did that, and I find it is so powerful because he started to get people raving behind that
Yeah.
keynote, like that wow
And
and
I remember
excitement.
he ended with, you know what I mean? kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It's like asking the question, right? Yeah.
right. And I guess there's a lot of things to learn from his keynote presentation, right?
Mm.
And later on when we give you the link, be sure to go and watch. It's actually on YouTube. It's
Yeah.
published on YouTube, and you
I'm
can
going to
actually
post
watch
up
that.
the link. Yeah, I'm going to post up the link for you guys. Yeah. So that I think this is something that I can watch over and over again to
I watched it many
present.
times, right? And so
And that's why you are doing what you are doing currently, right? Usually people have to present in a high impact way, right? That's your rice bowl now already, right? Because
and you
I
realize
really
that the way he present, Steve Jobs present, is always the slide is always behind him, and it's always really big and fill up the whole stage, right? And then he's always in front of the slides, moving around that people can see him and see the information on the slide, right?
and there's
Here,
no
this is
wording,
another one.
there's no words.
There's no words, right? Even there's words,
No
it
word.
becomes a very big word, right? This is 2011, which is his last keynote before he passed away. He passed away in 2011 October, right? And this keynote is actually in June, right? Where he actually launched something, yeah, some product, or he's talking about certain product. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I need to watch the keynote again. But anyway, this is his last keynote on stage, and you could see that if you zoom in, if you watch the video, he's so thin because he's sick. He was sick, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though if you use words, you could see that the words are very big, right?
Yes.
One key
Correct.
point per message, right? He never put too many things on the slide itself, right?
Yeah.
And as time goes on, after even he passed away, his DNA and his thought process and all that thing follows him, right? Or rather, is ingrained into his employees in Apple, right? In Apple. And after that, you could see that the stage get bigger and bigger and bigger. It get grander and grander and grander. Because what happened is that before Steve Jobs died, he actually built his own stage. The spaceship, he's the Apple headquarters. It's actually bigger. It's really big. It's very huge in the place. I've never been there, but wow, it's very huge. It's very huge, right?
Yeah.
And he could
The
build a
experience that you
massive,
want to have.
yes, massive theater where he can do his presentation with big stage. He can accommodate a lot of people, audience, right? And this is the recent one. The screen getting bigger and bigger now, right?
Yes.
Because now the technology can support it, right? The
Yeah.
technology then it becomes bigger, right?
Yeah.
And here's the current CEO, right? You see his stage is big, right? And even though the presentation today's where all other employees or all other VPs that is representing the company, when they do the keynote presentation, everything is big, everything is really cool, right? And when they move on to the virtual environment, they can even do more things, right? They can do things like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean,
So
this really cool.
yeah, Yeah, and so nowadays what they did is that because of the pandemic, they cannot hold conferences, events, or product launch, by
Correct.
inviting thousands and thousands of people into the
Yeah.
stage or into the conference hall. So what they do is
Yeah.
that they do virtual events, right? So they set up things in their offices, right, and make sure that nobody is looking at, only the camera is looking at, right? And every of the executive get a chance to present certain features or certain function of a new product where
I see
they are involved in building the product itself.
the development. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So
if you're
it's really,
interested, that
yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, if you are really interested in the secrets of Steve Jobs' presentation, there's actually a book, right, written by this Camille Galileo, right? He
Hmm.
is a follower of Steve Jobs, and he kind of interview him and did a lot of research on Steve Jobs' way of presenting, right? And he has a couple of
Right.
books, but this is one of the books that is quite interesting, The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. I mean, if you are keen to read a little bit more in depth about how and why Steve Jobs presented that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this book. Yeah. Because I think a lot of business owners, right, always think that well, I only manage the business, I manage the operation. But a lot of people very less wanted to put their face out, to in front of other people and be one of the spokesperson of the company. In fact, if let's say today you're a CEO, if let's say you're not a business owner, meaning to say like you're not like like for me, I have a business, right? So naturally I many of those older, I would say can I say China business kind of concept, right? So I'm being very frank with here. It's just that, okay, this is a China
Traditional
man
business. Traditional
traditional
business.
business, right? They want to hide behind the scene, right? But now this is not what the case is. Like you need to stand out. Like even I like have to build YouTube channels, talk about like my plastics, and I'm manufacturing and everything, and it works because if you look into corporates CEOs, right? If you look into like the bigger corporates, what happens is when a CEO step up, that naturally press medias will be in front of them, asking them, okay, what's the future direction of this, your business, or what's the future direction of this and that, right? So I think it actually um the 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 speaking and the way you present, and also you represent the branding. So if let's say you go on a presentation, you do you know a very normal presentation, you will never catch any attention. Especially nowadays, like so many people hype out in terms of like buying shares and whatsoever, right? It's really a hype of like marketing and a hype of stories, how they present the stories out to the market, you see. So then I find it very important in this era that entrepreneurs need to like really step up and learn how to speak in a manner like tone, like pauses, 5 second. That 5 second pauses is like, something
You,
that
you
I
see,
find it.
in other words, I think we need to like kind of separate ourselves. If you want to advance, you need to separate yourself from the crowd, right? Separate yourself from the crowd. Yeah, and today you see that a lot of people are presenting with very cluttered slide, and it's very confusing when you hear them talk, right? And
Mm,
so what you need to do is that for business to stand out from the rest, you want to be able to present with clarity. Yeah, I think that's
mm,
the word. You need to be clear in your message. Instead of trying to confuse your audience with too many messages, right? And
yeah,
that's why if you take a look at the way Steve Jobs did his keynote, and even now all the Apple executives who presented, on behalf of the company, their slides are all straight to the point, right? Straight to the
yeah,
point, very simple, and definitely certain times you need to also learn the skill of pausing, right? like Samantha say that, like you say, pausing is very powerful, right?
the
And
pause and know wordings, very, very less wordings. One of the thing that very visual, I would say very visual, just like just now, right? It's very for me last time I don't feel like, oh, it's very important. It's not really important because people are really looking at the data. People are really looking at the 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 information that they want to see in the slides. But in actual fact, I realized that the CEO or the presenter, right, gives soul to the presentation. So the presentation is really to like visually guide people into where the mind thinks. And it's so important, right? It's like subconsciously trying to influence you something, right? Through like the big pictures, and I find that it's really, really powerful.
Yeah. Because I think if you don't do it that way, if you put so many things on a complicated visual, people will try to find the information in a visual and they are not listening to you. Right? And the whole idea about presenting is that you want people to listen to you. You want people to be inspired by the stories that you tell. Yeah. And the pauses that you make. You want them to think. Right?
The stories. Yeah.
And so one important thing, very important thing where many people fail to do is to make the slide very busy. Right? And so I guess one of the things that we all should learn is to keep things simple. Right? Keep things simple. Something like that. Right? Keep it simple, which is good. Right? Keep your slide content simple. Right? Just have one key point. One key point per slide. That's good. And if you watch Apple's keynotes or specifically any keynote that Apple makes, it's always one key point. Yeah. Sometimes you can be a little bit more, depending on what they want to talk about, but very seldom. Most of the time is one key point. And the other important thing is that you want to use extra large font sizes. Many of us like to squeeze so many things until everything very small, people cannot see.
Come to think of it, sometimes I still do that. Like I can't wait to put everything there.
Yeah, because we always feel that, if we put something so big, we cannot put more things. But that's the whole idea. You shouldn't put more things, right? You should be very focused on what you want to say it clearly, and show it clearly. Right? And you got to change the way you design your slides. Right? You got to make sure that it's designed for maximum visibility. Again, everything must be big.
Do you practice your slides? Would you practice the slides again and again? Like just to make sure. I think Steve Jobs does practice, right? Do you think that he practices?
I think he
or
does.
It's already ingrained?
He does. No. I think he took a lot of time to build the slides the way he wanted, the way he want to show it, right? And actually, he rehearsed it quite a number of times with time precision, right? That means exactly when he will change the slide, exactly when he will do the pause, and things. Although you don't see it when you watch the keynote, right?
Yeah, because I was really standing in his shoes when he was flickering with this what do you call that, the prompter, right? What do you call
the remote control, right?
Remote controller, right? So I was really thinking about like when he wants to show that iPhone that time, right? The hand and the way he wants to relate that announcement, right, has to be right on the dot, right? It cannot be like, oops, I go next slide and I come back again. And it was done in a way that is like an art. The way that how he wants to, sometimes when we want to control that thing also we cannot control, like sometimes the slides flies out faster than we want to announce. But when I was looking through the 2007 link, right, that's what he did. It was like it's right onto the dot where he announced the thing. And yeah, I think it's really like years and years of practice, and before that he rehearsed the way that she pump it up to the way how he want to explain what iPhone is, right? With the three, you have that three thing combined into one thing. That thing, And then he started to show like market research after that, before he started to even show the phone, right?
Yep.
It's a series of like preparation for audience to accept,
Yeah.
right? Don't you think so?
So in his, if you realize that in his keynote, before he really pulled out the iPhone, correct? Before he really pulled out the he talked about what a phone should be like. Okay, what a phone should be like. So he talked about 3 things in one. He got to build smartphone, and he also talked about what other people have built their
In the
product
market.
and call it a
Yeah.
smartphone, right? And he
Yeah.
said that is all nonsense, right? A
Yes.
smartphone shouldn't have keypad that you can type it, which is like fixed. Right? He needs something
Correct.
fluid, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that. And that was,
Yeah.
before there was another keynote that I was really impressed with beside the iPhone one, is that when Apple introduced the MacBook Air, right? So the MacBook Air is supposed to be, at that time, the thinnest laptop that anyone can buy. Okay. And when he introduced the product, MacBook Air, he actually hold a envelope, A4 size envelope in his hand, the yellow hand envelope, a document envelope, which is so thin. And he bring it up on stage, he opened up the envelope and he pulled out the computer. Right? He pulled out the computer from the envelope. That shows the impact of how he introduced a new product. Showing that that's the thinnest computer in the world at that time.
The presentation, right? The presentation. Yes. Because I remember so many other products are doing like the first in the world. For example, like last time we have this 4-camera thing, or dual camera. Remember when we have like 1 camera to dual camera? I cannot remember who did that. Basically, I cannot remember which company does the dual camera, but it was never do in a way of that hype of how
you mean
Apple
dual camera on the iPhone, on the phone, on the smartphone?
On the phone. Yeah, on the smartphone. I do not know which brand is that. Was it Samsung or Huawei or something like that?
No,
Certainly
definitely it's not Apple. Apple is not the first company who came out with dual camera phone.
Correct. But you see, those people catch the market with the first, right? They have this idea of doing the first. But the thing is, doing the first, they didn't wow it, you see. They waste the maximum opportunity to wow the market with that dual thing. You see, but every time when
they
Apple
waste the opportunity for maximum visibility.
Correct. I mean, you have already done something so great, so much years of research, and you just lose it at one end of not being to launch it or not being to like explode into the market, you see. And it's also why I always think iPhone create that kind of rave, and fan base behind it, is because he managed to pitch that one thing in a very presented manner. That the presentation really it's really one very important one. Yeah.
I guess that thing, definitely that the product live within us lah. The product live within us. Apple created something that we all are able to use. We all love using it. And of course, of course, there are also people who hate the iPhone, right? Definitely, right? There are people who hate the iPhone. They don't use it. They don't believe it. But for those who love the iPhone, I think you are with me lah. I'm also one that is love the iPhone, right? Let me get into the framework, right? Let me get into the framework. We've been talking too much, right?
So that all of us can actually have all the entrepreneurs can actually remember, okay? Because I really appreciate Tian Teck coming out with this framework, and whenever I want to do a presentation, I mean, I think you did wow lah, in a way that I can remember. Like if I say I want to do a presentation now, oh my gosh, I'm stuck. Like presentation in like after in 2 hours time. What should I do? What is the first step? Come, I'm very excited to learn.
Okay, so let's take a look at the framework. This is not just for presentation. This is maybe it kind of the days before the actual presentation, right? The day before the real event, whether is it product launch, whether is it your real presentation, a keynote that you need to give, right? Definitely you need to prepare. And believe me, you spend time really prepare, okay? And then you come up with really high impact, really wow kind of presentation, right? And definitely because we are talking about Steve, I'm going to use Steve as a framework.
It works.
Right.
I
So
can
the
tell
framework
you.
is, yeah. So it's STEVE, Steve. So just remember Steve, right? Steve. So what is the first one? As you know, first thing you need is strategies. Right. So you need to strategize how you are going to design your presentation. You know, not just the slides, but also how you plan to articulate the slide that you build. You know, how you plan to talk about certain things, the product, you know, your ideas, and how do you plan to build that during
Yeah.
the practice, during the time before the presentation get crystallized and things like that, right?
Remember how he did in the 2071? If I said to decipher the entire presentation, he first started off with his track record, what Apple did, right? And then after that, he moved on to what is what is his current topic? What is he going to tell you about? So he moved on to like the
Yeah.
3 points that the 3 products, and then after that, he start to dissect what is the pain point in the market, by tarnishing other brands of like having keypads that is not usable, and no, he really did a market research, and he showcased this, like, this is what happening in the market, and then he really did strategize the step by step, moving all the points that he has been built up all the while from the first minute, right, all the way to the show, and he really does strategize it in a layering manner to that way. I can totally agree with that. So I think there are people in our audience also say that they wanted to watch the link. So I will give you the link in a moment's time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's also definitely strategize is very important, you know. Not just
Yeah.
presentation. I think anything that you do, even though if you want to start a business, you want to start a new business or you want to start building a new product, right? You need to strategize. You need to strategize how are you going to move from one end to the other end, from design stage all the way until the release date, right? The product
Yeah.
launch and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you do agree with me, Samantha, because you also deal with a lot of products. You also
Yeah.
design a lot of product in your business, right?
Yeah. And I think really there's a difference if you design it and not design it lah. Basically, like I said, like, don't waste a good opportunity. Sometimes it's really wasting a good opportunity, right? Like right now, people are complaining about the pandemics and all those. Maybe to some, this is also a great opportunity, right? Don't waste a good
Mm,
opportunity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's move on, right? Let's move on to the second one. T. T stands for time precision. Right? You realize that in his presentation in Steve Jobs keynote, everything is precisely timed. When he is going to push the button, when he's going to change a slide, when he is going to say something, and when he wants to pause, right? And when he start to pause, he walk to the end of the screen, come back before he said something. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that is very powerful. Right? You need to practice your time precision.
I honor it to his stubbornness, or I would say his when we call in Mandarin, we call it in 偏执, meaning to say his stubbornness into that thing, and he wanted to get it really, really precise. And I think, like I said, he really practiced it. Like he really make sure that to achieve the effects that they want. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah.
And I think that is very powerful. That is very powerful. And so because I follow his keynote, you know, all my presentation and all the things I put into my presentation, also I build time precision into it. Right. I also do practice. I make sure that I run through many times. from the start to the end of the presentation, and I know when I will press the next slide. Having said that, let's move to the next one, which is E, right? Evolve. What do you mean by evolve? That means, when you build the next presentation, it has to be better than your previous presentation. Right? If you build your next product launch, you plan and design your next product launch, it has to be better than your previous product launch. Right? So you can never say that, wow, this is my best presentation. No, this is not your best presentation. The next presentation is going to be better. And that you should always be thinking with that. And I guess if you look through all his keynotes, every keynote is better than the previous in Steve Jobs. It evolved. At first, you have a stage, fill up the slide, actually fill up the whole stage behind him. As he move on, the stage get bigger and bigger, the slide get bigger and bigger, and the message get even powerful.
Yeah, the visualization.
Yeah, and it's all about giving the user the experience of listening to you. And many people never, or many presenters never think about that as an important point. They always think about, all I need to do is to give the audience the message.
The information.
And I don't care whether the message, I don't care whether the audience enjoy my message or not. Right?
The experience. So iPhone, Apple, Steve Jobs make the experience, every single experience counts, right? I totally remember like how Singapore airports give the experience, to their customers, every single step. That was this case study I always share. So that's really very important. Like how when I was presenting, right, instead of I focus on myself, what I want to tell you, I will want to tell you what you want to know and what you want to what I want to hold your hands to bring you experience. I think that's another perceptions that we need to change when we are doing a presentation as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you need to relate with all these things. I think experience is a very powerful ingredient, in the whole presentation thing. You want your audience to experience the greatness or the wonderfulness, the wowness of your presentation.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So we move to the next one, right? We move to the next one, which is V, visualize. Right. Visualization is going to be something that we all must do, right? Before the presentation. We plan, we strategize and things like that. We need to also visualize what is going to happen on the real day, right? By practicing, by running through, and by thinking what would happen. What will happen in the 5th minute after I start my presentation? What should happen, after 10 minutes when I start my presentation?
Yeah.
And that is what you want to do. Visualize, prepare everything nicely, run through, dry run, practice, visualize. And that is very important to get to a successful keynote, a successful product launch, a successful presentation.
Yeah, I'm always amazed by that presentation style you have. Like, for me, I was like, oh, I'm pulling my hair, trying to get all this tech stuff, set up to get this done. But because of the competitiveness in competitiveness in the industry, I would say. Even you see today, the live shows that we're doing today, it's so different from the live that I did, few days, couple of months back. Reason why is because I level up, you see, I evolved. I evolved because the competition around us, is changing and it's very different now. And and it's to me it's really something that it's very important now. So so Leon Go is saying like I already visualize ice creams, can wow the audience with ice creams.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that ice cream, that's remind me of something. Okay, that remind me of something. Okay, I was actually working for Apple, right? I was working at Apple many years ago, right? In Singapore, I was an engineer in Apple factory, right? At that time, you know, there was no iPhone yet. At that time, there was no iPhone yet, right? And so it was the first, second generation of computing and things like that. But it was a great place to work. It was a great place to work. Many companies will say, um, at event, at lunch, at meetings and things like that, if they have a small event in a company, they will maybe uh, order buffet kind of thing, right? Order buffet, some snacks and things like that. You know what
Yeah.
Apple did? Apple actually went ahead and ordered Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
That
Okay,
time,
Haagen-Dazs
right?
ice cream. At that time, imagine Haagen-Dazs is like kind of a really, really premium. There wasn't any brand that are premium,
That time.
you know,
Yes,
at
yes.
that time. It was like Haagen-Dazs, it was like Baskin Robbins, and those are just a few, right? And it was really expensive ice cream, right? And every employee get to take away one or two, what was that? How do you call it? Tub
Tops.
of ice cream. Tubs, right? Tubs. Right?
Yeah.
And if we cannot finish, if they are extra, you can bring it home.
Yeah.
Okay.
The experience
And in
is very, very important.
experience. And in Singapore, it's not just the people in the office. There are a lot of production workers. And they all have the same privilege to have the Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's very, very important. So Leon Go is saying like
And so ice
visualize.
cream, yes.
I
So
assume that maybe
visualize the ice cream.
Leon maybe is an ice cream business, so probably he's going to use like a very big ice cream, to visualize for the audience. Yeah, yeah. So coming up, the next one would be the last E.
Yes. Definitely, we have to end up everything with excitement, right? I mean, if you strategize your thing, your presentation, your keynote, your product launch, and at the end of the day, you don't add in excitement, the audience will not get what you want to deliver, right? You need to make the audience excited, right?
Yes.
Call to action. You need to get the audience excited.
Correct.
Before
Like
they will get wow.
Hype. And I will buy. Yeah.
And that is the whole experience that you want to build up from the day you start preparing your keynote, your presentation, your product launch, all the way to the day of the event. And that is, you end up by exciting the audience, by giving the audience the best experience they ever experience in any presentation. Right?
Yeah.
And that is the key, the framework that I want to share with you.
I can remember it. I mean, because I'm doing presentation and because I'm doing this right now, and I can remember Steve, right? So it's actually strategize, time precision, evolve, visualize, and excitement. See, it works.
Yes. So it works. It definitely works, right? And so as you build your presentation, right? As you strategize, you think about something, one thing that you want your audience to take away, what it is, right? Come out with a framework that is easy to remember, right? And it makes sense in relation to the topic of your idea.
That's very important. Yeah. Great. Hey, we actually overshoot it. Time precision gone. We wanted to have like 30 minutes, but we
because we are so excited, right?
Yeah, I'm actually very excited. When we started off with Steve Jobs' keynote, right? I mean, to be very frank, I didn't present it in that way, in that manner. Not many speakers can present in that manner. Like I said, time precision wise, the biggest takeaway from here would be, if you notice how he does it, it would be the way he pauses, the powerful pause. Like if I were to introduce you something, then I'll probably pause like 3 seconds, and that thing is going to change your life. And I pause again. Right? And there's a difference in terms of like, I'm going to introduce you something and that thing is going to change your life. And there was like, what's that, right? You don't really feel the intense suspense, in that manner, you see. So I realized that, it's really one thing. Let me just copy down the thing you guys can actually go ahead. But before that, I know that you have something for the live audience, right? I mean, you have something for the live audience.
I have a document, a framework that you can use to, it's a 10 steps to design high impact presentations. If anyone is interested, I don't know how to paste the link onto the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to paste it up for you.
Okay.
I'm going to do that for you. Yeah. So basically, Tian Teck guided people into making high impact presentations. So it's high impact presentation means if you can see the level of how I present and the level of how Tian Teck present in a manner of like everything flying behind the background. So if you like to learn a little bit more, do follow Tian Teck on the Facebook. I think we put it in the chat box already. Like just, connect with him, and by the way, we never really talk about your book, right? That was on Amazon.
Okay. Maybe that would be a topic for another another session, right?
Yeah, but do follow Tian Teck on that portion. And okay, so this is the place where you can actually download this presentation guideline. If let's say ever one day you need a presentation, safe keep this, and there's this guideline steps. Was it in a presentation format or is a document?
No, it's actually in a document format. So there are like 10 steps into 10 ideas, 10 ideas that you can start, to think through and start building high impact presentations.
Yeah, I never forget the first time when we met, you always tell me that when presentation time, never use a template, right? You always ask us to start in a white blank template, right?
Yes. Yeah. Or I would say that never use a PowerPoint template, because PowerPoint template is so archaic, right? And it's kind of make you put too many things on the slide, right? And always start with a blank page of paper, and that is one of the idea and one of the steps in that document, right? Which is start with a blank page. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you guys can actually check out. And I think there are people that are asking about what do you call that keynote of Steve Jobs. If let's say you guys are quite, don't want to search online. Basically, it's here. I'm gonna post it up to you as well. The YouTube link to watch Steve Jobs 2007. And maybe Steve Jobs died in 2011, right?
Yes.
It was actually 10 years ago, Can you imagine that?
It's so fast. Yeah, it's so fast. Yes.
Like yesterday, And
it's just like yesterday, right?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. When I was looking through his Wikipedia, I just realized that it was 10 years ago. And to this date, we can still remember how he looks, on the presentation, what he wears, the spectacles that he's holding, the way he marched across the YouTube, across the stage, and so this is the and seriously, I mean, the way he marched is very different. Like we missed out something that we forgot to tell audience. He is very, very calm, right?
Yeah.
Like superbly calm when he wants. So he was not the excited type. Like his excitement is built all the way to
very zen,
end.
Right? His excitement is very zen.
Yeah, his excitement is like a poised kind of way of telling you iPhone is launched.
You know that Steve Jobs is actually a Buddhist.
I think he meditates a lot. I remember that
he
meditates, and then he does a lot of like the Zen stuff, like a lot of Zen stuff.
Yeah.
And that gift that the angle. I mean, you guys really should watch the 2007 one and go take a look at the 2011, the one before he passed away in 2011, which is also a product launch. So that time, and I can still see that this entrepreneur is still so passionate about his job, right? You know, even though he's really sick, you know, that time, he's really still very passionate about what he's doing. Yeah. Tributes to, you know, this guy to you know, the evolvement of handphones actually basically starts. And yeah, I think there's so much learning today. I'm really, really happy that Tian Teck is here. We utilized 1 full hour of our life.
Yeah, great. I'm so happy to be able to share with you all the things that I know about what I read, you know, what I came across in the way Steve Jobs present, in the way I believe in the type of presentations should be should happen in all of us, right? And thank you, Samantha, for inviting me to this conversation.
Yeah, I
think
truly
it was
enjoy it. I
so
learned a lot.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you everyone. Please give us a more like
Thank
and a
you.
more shape so that we can continue to do this more. Yeah, because these are something that created, we crafted this. We don't ask Tian Teck to come on live and, you know, just talk, but we sort of plan the content so that you guys don't, you know, have massive learning behind this time. So I really want give us a comments, like, you know, what sort of things that you would learn more, you know. And today is Friday. Our series is more about like behind the brands, you see. So we will actually dissect brands. So speakers will come. Really looking forward for next time you hopping on to my show again. Thank you so much, Tian Teck. And to all the people that are around, see you again tomorrow. I have somebody coming up, Mandarin speaking one. So please do come and support. We are talking about how to mend back your relationship with broken customers. Okay, if you have like nasty customers, you broke the relationship already. We're giving you ways of you how to pull back, bring back this customer, you see, and make them build back the trust. Because I find that you're doing things, you know, shit happens, right? Sometimes there are trust being broken, and who knows, they may be one of the customers that become, you know, from lousy not trustworthy customer become like a very high spending customer. So we tomorrow a very pretty speaker is coming up to give us a talk about how can we build back that trust if, let's say, trusts are broken between you and your customers. All right, so okay, thank you so much and really enjoy this session. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.